this time. Thank you, Vicki, for reminding us of that. So Yossi, if you would stop the poll, we'll end that particular poll and share the results. We can see where people are coming from. Jerusalem mainly, Israel, US, and South Africa. Oh, and other. Oh, is that you, Vicki? Oh, no. Where, if someone would share in the other, where you are, from France, from Paris. Tamara's coming from Paris. That's lovely, lovely. Thank you. Or if anyone else is coming from another place that's not listed, please write that in the chat so we can share that. Okay, let's go to our second poll. I wanted to see what brought you to our presentation tonight. What was your interest? And what might be your relationship with someone who has cognitive impairment or who has been diagnosed with a variety of dementia. So we'll give people a chance to, okay, great. The majority right now is family members, wonderful. Just a few more minutes, we'll get everyone a chance to participate in this poll. Okay, Yossi, you can stop. We can end that particular poll and share the results, and everyone can see what brought all of us together tonight. Family members are half. Caregivers, professional staff, volunteer friend, and someone who's just interested. Wonderful. That's great. All right, thank you. We'll stop sharing that particular poll. Great, so we'll stop sharing the polls. There we go, great. All right, one thing that struck me tonight when I was getting ready is the fact that I get to speak to all these people and I don't have to wear a mask, and no one is wearing a mask because that's just so much a part of our corona life right now. And I even put lipstick on for the first time. I can't even remember the last time I put lipstick on. And one of the things about wearing a mask all day when we work and everywhere we go, I realized the importance and appreciate the importance of breathing and being able to take a really deep breath. And centering is one of the major techniques that we practice in validation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But I just wanted to express how important it is to take a few moments just to take a deep breath. Our lives are so busy and there's so much pressure on us coming in so many different directions. And how many times do we think about just stopping for a moment and taking a deep breath? In one of our teacher meetings recently, Vicki said, unless you're a surgeon in the middle of an operation, there are very few critical moments in someone's day where you just can't just take the time and take a few deep breaths. We even do that in our rooms sometimes when we just have to ask the clients to let's all just stop and breathe. And so let's do that right now as a centering exercise, a very brief centering exercise, just kind of clear our heads and be present in the moment this evening and enjoy each other and this particular webinar. So we'll take 3 big, deep breaths. We're going to inhale through our nose and exhale through our mouth. So we'll start that right now and just inhale and exhale. One more time, inhale and exhale. And one more time. Inhale and exhale. Thank you. I needed that, if nothing else. Thank you for sharing that with me. And we'll speak more, like I said, about how important centering and breathing can be in your practice of validation. And try it sometime. It takes practice, and try it sometime with your office staff. Try it with your family at home. There are so many times in our busy, crazy world right now that we just need to get off of that treadmill. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. Here we go. I dedicate this evening to Validation's founder, Naomi Feil. Naomi has dedicated her life to developing the validation method, sharing, training, and communicating with older adults with cognitive impairment. Naomi was born in 1932 in Munich, Germany. In 1936, at the age of 4, she and her family escaped Nazi Germany and relocated in Cleveland, Ohio. Naomi grew up in the Montefiore Home for the Aged, where her father was the administrator and her mother was head of social services. This very unique experience provided Naomi the background that into a world of older adults that most young people especially would never ever experience. They were her neighbors, they were her friends. She shared her experiences from school when she would come home. A very, very unique experience growing up in this particular situation. After graduating with a master's degree in social work from Columbia University, she began working with older adults professionally. So from 1963 until 1980, Naomi developed validation method as a response to her dissatisfaction with the traditional methods of working with older adults who were disoriented, and they were her clients. The techniques that she had learned in school just didn't work. So she drew upon the study and the experiences and the writings of humanistic psychologists at the time, and as well as her own experiences, and developed the validation method. So in a nutshell, validation is a method of connecting and communicating with older adults who are experiencing age-related cognitive decline. It's our goal to nurture their dignity, integrity, and to instill a sense of well-being, not only in the older adults, but also their caregivers as well. Now, what is validation? Validation consists of 3 elements, or 3 pillars, or 3 legs that makes it as strong and stable as a 3-legged milking stool. As a farm girl, I like the analogy of a milking stool. The top is attitude, the basic attitude. It is so important to approach any relationship with honesty and integrity, but especially and more so with people who are experiencing cognitive impairment. Validation is built on an emotive, empathetic attitude and a holistic view of the entire person. And then theory, with Naomi's extensive education combined with years of her own practice, social work practice, she developed the principles of validation based upon the theories of leading humanistic psychologists, Maslow's hierarchy of basic needs and Erikson's life stages, as well as Piaget and Freud and others. And then out of that, she developed a a series of verbal and nonverbal techniques. Validation is a skill-based practice that gives the older person an opportunity to express his or her emotions and feelings that sometimes are considered bizarre, challenging, or difficult. But in validation, we see that as a whole method of communicating. They're trying to communicate something. Sometimes that's the only way they can, and that can happen both verbally and non-verbally. Validation uses empathy. What is not empathy? If you'll take a look at the statements on the right-hand side of the screen, how many times have you thought about saying something like that, or that you said something like that, or heard someone say any of these statements? Older adults, especially those with cognitive impairment, possess intuitive wisdom. With failing eyesight, they see the person who patronizes them. With diminished hearing, they hear the pretender if you are not being genuine. And they feel the quality of touch, the difference between a put down or a very respectful, warm contact. Your mother is waiting at home, a therapeutic lie, which is not something that we do in validation. And you'll see some demonstrations tonight, how you can use that statement when their mother, when they're wanting to see a mother or a relative. We'll see how to react to that kind of statement that is much more empathetic. I understand how you feel. That is drawn from sympathy. How can we possibly understand what it feels like to have someone, to be someone with dementia? Everything will be okay. We're so programmed to want to fix things. And validation, that we don't try to fix things. We just try to be with them in the moment and help them express the need and emotion that they want to express. Shall we go have coffee or tea? It's always sometimes easier to divert, distract, redirect. And that's really not getting at the basic problem that they're trying to share with you. And we'll talk more about that as well. So how do we establish, and empathy is stepping into their shoes, stepping into their world and seeing how it feels. It's so hard to do, to take that time. That's why centering is so important in validation. The task of putting away your own thoughts, your own feelings, and for that moment that you are with that older person, to be very present. So how do we gain empathy? Centering is one of the most important things that you can do. Prepare to be fully present with that particular person who is in front of you. And do centering whatever works for you. It could be just taking some deep breaths like we did before. It could be imagery, guided imagery. It could be meditation. It could be a kinesthetic kind of pressure that you might place on a certain part of your body that helps you to focus and gain energy for that moment. And centering also takes practice. So practice centering before you communicate, especially when you don't know what to say. How often do we really observe someone or observe the situations around us? How often do we really take a look at facial expressions, someone's eyes, someone's eyebrows, forehead, the lips, the chin, their breathing? Are they breathing from their chest? Are they breathing deep in their stomach? Their body positions, their movements in space, their voice tone. What does that sound like? What is their energy level? And what is their rhythm? All of these things are so important as we approach that person in front of us. Active listening, also not so easy to do sometimes in our busy days. It's also very good to rephrase what someone has said so they understand that you heard them. Not parrot, not the exact words, but you'll see some demonstrations of that as well. And you will have a chance this evening to practice observing and active listening as we go through the video demonstrations. Okay, I will stop sharing my screen now. Okay. All right, so we're going to go to our first video. We're going to listen to a very short interview that Naomi gave. She brings up so many different kinds of elements and themes that we practice in validation. So listen carefully, and afterwards there will be a poll to see what you got out of this particular video. And then it'll be followed by Vicki, who will do a discussion about what we heard and what we saw. I'll share my screen again. Just one moment. Sorry, this was cute. All right.
Naomi, we encounter people all the time, as you do, who think that they are losing their loved one. What advice can you give individuals about how to reach that person again, to convince them that the person is still there? How would you recommend it?
Well, the first thing is to listen and not to argue. If someone says, I have to see my mother, not to argue and say your mother's dead, or not to lie and say your mother's alive. Because deep down, that person knows their mother is dead. I mean, I was there when she died, and that was traumatic. That's buried. But right now, I have to see my mother. So to know that they're basic human needs that people express, and to relate to the needs. So if I have to go see my mother, that means either I'm scared to be alone without my mom, or I never separated, or I have unresolved issues. I never told her, Mom, you hurt me. I never expressed some really strong feelings, and now I need to do it. And I have a mind's eye, and I can restore my mother to meet my human need. So that's one human need, is to be safe, to be warm, to be nurtured, to be loved, and to resolve your unfinished issues. And if someone is, for example, pounding, if a son says, my dad's nuts, all day long he goes like this. Oh, no, sir, he's not nuts. Your father does not see his hand. His brain is very deteriorated. He doesn't know this is his hand. Also, he doesn't see well. But you know, your dad sees a hammer. He was a master carpenter. And he sees a nail, and he sees wood. Your father is working. He's restoring his identity. He never learned to be an old man in a wheelchair. He's going to die a master carpenter. So if the son learns, if the son asks Dad, what are you doing? Maybe the dad can't answer because he has no more words. But if the son asks the dad, Dad, is it oak or pine? Eyes open. Solid oak, not cheap pine. Because my granddad taught me about woods. Because there are those words, those woods are stored permanently. I have a love. There are certain words that are there, and all you have to do is give the person choices. Is it oak? Is it pine? Solid oak. And we have a communication. Is it a 12 by 4 or 13? If you ask me how big it is, I can't answer. But you give me choices. And the son and the dad will have a communication. And the father will never become a living dead person. He will communicate.
Naomi.
Okay. So that was Naomi Feil, the founder of Validation. All right, Yossi, if you would launch our next poll. Poll number 3. There we go. What two validation themes resonated with you the most? In that particular video, which validation themes registered with you the most? You can pick two. Pick two and then submit. Listen and don't argue. Nice. I'll give everyone a few more seconds to finish the poll. Okay. All right, Yossi, you can stop the poll and share the results. All right, the majority of people said listen and don't argue, don't lie. Older people see with their mind's eye, choices, and everyone has basic human needs. Okay, thank you. Very interesting. All good, and all right. Every single one of them are the things that she brought up. Okay, if you'll stop sharing that particular poll, we'll stop sharing that. And Vicki, if you would please share with us some of the insights of that particular video.
Well, thank you, Nancy. I think I want to respond first to two comments in the chat, which is, do you say regarding the woman who says, I need my mom? If you ask, where does your mom live? The woman might give a very specific answer. And then that opens up the conversation to how to go deeper into what do you want to say to your mom? What is unsaid? You would not try to steer her away from the subject because she brought it up. She needs her mom for some reason. And what we do in validation is explore that, understanding that it's the need behind the behavior is not going to go away. And if you divert her or redirect her, it may work for 5 minutes, but that lady's going to come right back, and because the need is not answered. What if my mom calls me her mom? Roll with it. Don't play act, because that would be lying, but just recognize that your mom misses her mom. And what a good woman she was, or what a terrible woman she was, or there's so much to explore, especially if you know the history. If it's a family member, you have the richness of knowledge. Does that sort of cover it? Any other questions? Nancy, you okay with this?
Yes.
Cool.
Anything else that you wanted to say about the video and some of the themes that were brought up in the video?
Well, it all comes down to basic human needs and learning and accepting that there is for very old people who have age-related cognitive decline, and I use those words very specifically, there is always a reason behind the behavior. Always. It's not because they're crazy or their brain isn't working. I mean, their brain isn't working too, but that's not the only reason. There is usually a psychological reason behind the behavior, not just the brain damage that happens normally as people get older. Now, somebody asked about younger people who have cognitive decline. Those people, it's very different. It's a different illness. It's a different flow. And people who have early onset Alzheimer or dementia with Lewy bodies or multi-infarct dementia, sometimes called vascular dementia, they can behave in strange ways, and that has nothing to do with psychosocial reasons. So I want to make that very clear. When we talk about there is a reason behind the behavior of very old people, I'm talking specifically to the people who are typically labeled or diagnosed with late onset Alzheimer. Let's leave that question that's now in the chat for later on. What is a validation response to? And everybody's going to send one of those. So we cannot give you a recipe. There are no recipes in validation. There are only spices. And I bet a lot of you are great cooks, and everybody is going to cook differently. So what we can do is give you the spices, the concepts, the techniques, and everybody's going to mix it different. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Vicki. All right, now I will share my screen again, and we will go to our next video. This particular one has to do with what to do when someone is angry. And this will be a role play between Vicki and Naomi. And then afterwards, there will also be a chat question. I'm sorry. Yes, you'll use your chat function after this particular video for the questions. I'll share my screen again.
Hello, Mrs. Simpson. How are you doing?
Well, I'm not doing so well today. I need to go shopping and they won't let me out.
What do you need to shop for?
What do you mean? I always shop. What do I need? What a stupid question. I have to get food for my family. You know that. Your father, God rest his soul, he's a hungry man. He needs to eat, and they won't let me get his food, and I have to get his food. And if I don't get there soon, those other yentas, they're going to get her.
So you need to get out of here.
I do. I have to get out, and she won't let me go. She just won't let me go out. And also, well, anyway.
It's really hard on you being inside.
I'm stuck. Dumb bell here won't let me out. Doesn't realize I have to cook food for my family. She doesn't have a family. I'm not surprised that nobody wants.
How many people are in your family?
Well, there's my husband and my two little girls, and Yeah, and I always have an extra one for Irma. Irma is our good friend. She always comes. She helps me with the cooking and baking, and so we have about 2, 3, 4, 4 or 5 people I have to shop for.
Right.
I can do that. I always shop like that.
And you did it every day?
Yes, every day of my life I went. Well, on Shabbos I didn't go on Saturdays,
Right.
but I went on Good Friday. It was okay. I went
Right.
then.
Huh.
Yeah.
And so now when you can't go out because it's dangerous, you feel totally lost, or?
I do. I feel trapped. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Trapped, that I can't even go out of my own house and do what I need to do in my own self. That
Right.
I'm like a prisoner,
Right.
prisoner in Second Avenue.
Oh.
Yes, that's what I am.
Did you ever in your life have to go through something like this before?
Well, I think a long time ago, I couldn't go out. You remember when President Roosevelt, he got polio.
Right.
And everybody was afraid of getting polio, that it would spread.
Yeah.
And we didn't live far from him. I love President Roosevelt. Well, anyway, yeah. So I feel a little better now. I feel much better, but yeah.
What
okay.
helps you when you feel trapped and you can't do what you want to do?
Well, I sit and I pray.
You pray.
I pray. God always listens to me and helps me. I know he does. And I say, dear God, please help me get through this. And I will, yeah, that's what I say.
Can I stay here for a few minutes while you pray, and maybe we can do it together?
Okay.
Mrs. Spencer needs someone to listen to her feelings and understand her needs. You can help her tap into her own history for resources. Sometimes just being with her is enough. Keep tuned to more validation caregiver tips. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki, very much. All right, that takes us to our question. Please use the chat. And what I would like for you to do is to write a few words about your observations. What did the validator do? What did the validator do? And Vicki will share some of your responses. What did she do?
She was with the person. Listened and tapped into what the woman was experiencing. She let her talk and get it all out. She commiserated. Interesting. The validator listened, was present, was empathetic. She tuned in, was patient and kind. Asked questions that made her problem real. Gave credence to her anger and frustration, let her express. Listened, steered the conversation so that a solution was possible. Listened and tried to elicit feelings. Somebody asked, couldn't she have asked what foods she wanted to cook? Would that have validated her desire to go shop? She listened to the stress, didn't offer an opinion. Yeah, I see a lot of that in this video. But I guess the two key elements I would like for you all to pull out, which you all did, is don't argue and don't get into why she shouldn't be so angry and other people have it worse, because that's the antithesis of validating. We want to accept her anger and in fact go farther than accepting. I don't know if you noticed my face during that video, but I was really trying to calibrate what I saw. And I use that term. It means I'm matching the eyes and matching the mouth and the voice tone and perhaps the breathing. Not perfectly, but enough so that it brings me into empathy, which means sharing her feeling. So that annoyance and that stupid one. And the minute you start calibrating, the emotion can come up. And it's easy for everybody because we all share the same basic human emotions. Anger, sadness, joy, surprise, disgust. And I've probably forgotten one, but we all have felt those emotions, and that makes it easy to connect with the emotion. Right. Well, somebody wrote, validating, that's just not for people with dementia. It works in any situation. Not really. Some aspects of validation can be used everywhere. Yes, empathy. You can use that in many, many places. And somebody asked earlier, can we use validation with somebody who has early onset Alzheimer? Well, absolutely showing respect and empathy and giving honor, the basic attitude, can absolutely be used with people who have early onset Alzheimer and many other diagnoses. And in fact, it's not so bad to use with your husband and your kids and your colleagues. And, you know, those are just good human qualities. I draw the line with empathy because there are places where you should not use emotive empathy. For instance, if somebody is psychotic, do not use emotive empathy. That would be really bad for you and not helpful for the person in that situation. That's just one example. It's not something you can use everywhere. You have to make choices about that. I guess that's all I need to say about that video.
Another thing I think would be interesting, Vicki, is that when someone expresses anger, that it also can be fear. I think that's also a piece that we miss sometimes. We just see the anger, and without going behind that need, it could be an expression of fear because they just don't know what else to do.
Right. That's excellent. Yeah. Indeed.
Okay.
And a lot of people in COVID who are locked down are angry that they're locked down, and they don't remember that perhaps that it's COVID or that there's this pandemic, and they just feel that person is not letting me out of my house. And yeah, we can imagine what that's like to be locked up. So there are pathways to empathy, even when somebody is angry. And, oh, can I say one last thing about anger? A lot of people are afraid of anger. When a client, a resident, a relative, whoever is angry, our first reaction is often pull back out of fear. And what we train to do in validation is to do exactly the opposite, which is to move in, not in an aggressive way, not to scare them, not to make them stop being angry, but to join them in that anger so that they feel validated in their anger. And we spend a whole lot of time practicing that when we do a course in validation.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you very much. All right, we'll go into our third and final video. This one we will do in two parts. This is a different kind of video, one of my favorites, in where Vicki and Naomi are actually playing mother-daughter. We'll do part one, which is without using validation techniques. And then we'll stop and use the chat for a question, and then continue with the second part. So I will share my screen again.
Hi, Mom.
Hi. I can't talk to you very much today because I have to find my best skirt.
Okay.
There's a party here, and
Mom, there's no party there.
What?
There's no party. This is, we're under Corona crisis and everything's in quarantine. You've forgotten about that.
Okay. All right. You want to start again then? How are you
doing?
How am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm doing very well, because I think people are taking my things away and they're not telling me where they're putting them.
Mom, people don't take things. You forget where you put them.
I have a very good memory, you know.
No, you did. You absolutely had a great memory for many years, but you're 87 years old now and your memory's not so good.
Well, first of all, I'm 88. And second of all, my memory is just as good as it ever was. I've always had a good memory. I can spell words backwards and forwards and always had a good memory. It's something that
it's just not, I don't want to argue with you. I just want to have a nice conversation. And
well, I don't know. Okay. I'm just not very comfortable with all this stuff going on around here.
Yeah.
So many things happening, and I don't know, it tells me what's going on, and it's just very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all uncomfortable.
All right, I'll stop sharing my screen. And now you'll use your chat, please, and answer this question. List all the mistakes that you saw the daughter make during that video. List all the mistakes that you saw when she was not validating her mother.
Arguing, telling her, argued, belittled, insulted. She made her mother feel stupid, contradicted her mother. Daughter argued, contradicted, was degrading. Yeah, all these. Denied her mother's truth. That's nice. The daughter needed to be right. Yeah. Argued, did not listen. Yeah. Did not accept mother's reality. Fought with her mother about memory. Dealt with superiority. She has to convince her mother clearly. Disrespectful in her tone. Was also a bit aggressive, was trying to win.
Interesting. Great answers. Anything else? Any other comments you have about?
Patronizing. Didn't answer mother's need for information. Your mom is a good actress. Mm-hmm.
She did that for many years. Right.
Cut her off rudely. Body language was off-putting, showed frustration. She had to assure her mother to remain. Sorry, these videos are spot on. Lovely.
Right.
Yes. Shall we go on?
Yes, certainly. Okay, great. I will share my screen again and we'll see the last part of this video.
Hi, Mom. How are you doing?
I'm not doing very well since you asked. I better be honest with you because I can't find anything because somebody's been taking my things and they've been putting them away and they're not telling me where they're putting them.
What are you missing?
Well, first of all, my good skirt. I had a very good black skirt. It was a long one and I always wear it. And there was a party tonight and I need my skirt.
Is that the one you used to wear all the time when you would go out with Dad?
That's right. He loved that skirt.
Yeah.
He want me to see it. He's going to ask me, where is your skirt?
Yeah.
Okay.
That skirt has been in your life so much.
Yes, it has. It's part of my part. I love that skirt. You know, I've always worn it, and your dad loves it too.
Yeah. What top do you usually wear with it?
Well, I can wear my silk blouse. I have a silk blouse. It's really nice, and it goes very well with that skirt. And then I have another blouse. It's many colors. It goes well with that skirt. And that's why I need to find it. Yeah.
Right. How else are you doing? Everything going well? You look good.
Well, I do.
I'll
tell you, my stomach isn't so good. But that's okay. I'm old. You know, you can't expect things to go well when you're old. You really can't. So, you know, the one thing you should learn, don't get old.
What was it that Betty Davis always said?
What did she say? I forgot.
Getting old isn't for sissies.
True.
Yeah. It's tough.
It is.
If you had one thing you could tell everybody about getting old, what would your advice be?
Not to fight it, to accept it, and to find good in it if you can.
Wow.
To look at your life the way it was and see if you can help people benefit from what you've learned.
That's really moving.
Yeah, that's what I would
really great.
want to do.
All right, I'll stop sharing my screen and use your chat once again for this question. What did the daughter do differently this time? What did you see the daughter do differently this time?
Vicki's positive facial expressions. Entered her mother's world. She ignored her word. I'm not sure what that means. The pace of speech matched. She picked up and continued the conversation. Helped her mom remember the love of her husband and the beautiful relationship. She wasn't fighting her mother. She brought humor. Daughter was animated, asked open questions that related to what her mother was saying. Used reminiscing, was empathetic. Probed her mom in a constructive manner to create a different conversation. I in no way, and I want to make this very clear, tried to redirect her. There was no redirection. It was just, you know, where does she need to go? What does she need to explore? What is the emotion or the need behind her complaining behavior? And so you try one thing and see if it works, and you try something else and maybe that works better or not. And the more you know about the person, the more history you have, the easier it is to know, I know what this is about. And to be able then to ask the questions that help that person express what's on their heart. So you're noticing that the tempo and rhythm of my speech changed, my movements changed, facial expressions changed, because I had moved into empathy. Yeah, exactly. Thank you all for noticing so beautifully the differences.
Also the rephrasing, if you would also talk about that, Vicki, you rephrased in such a way that wasn't parroting, but that picked up on some key words that let her know you were right with her. If you would speak more about the open questions and the process of probing.
Okay. I used open questions to try to explore the themes that she was bringing up. The rephrasing. Rephrasing is saying in your own words what the other person has just said, but it's extremely important to do that with empathy, because if you just repeat what the person has said, well, my mom would say, "What, are you deaf? I just said that," you know? So it's really important for me not to mimic, not to pretend, to be very there. And that's where centering, what we did at the beginning of this webinar, is critically important, to really, and then zoom into their world. So I don't know if you noticed, and I noticed it for the first time actually in this showing, my voice tone actually dropped. Mm-hmm. I went from here, "Hi, Mom," to, "Oh, what's the matter?" And it was just a significant drop in tone. And that was, I did not do that consciously. That was something that came from her.
And that was the calibrating that you were talking about in the previous video, how important it is, that whole observation and continuing to observe.
Right. The techniques are not so important, to be perfectly honest with you. You can do all the techniques perfectly, but if you don't have the empathy, they're just not going to be effective. Yeah, so.
Because they know.
They do.
They know if you're genuine or not, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Vicki, you wanted to say about that particular?
No, I think it's good.
Yeah, everyone did a lot of good stuff. All right. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I know time is rushing by here. And I want to take a few minutes just to recap and to review what we've gone over tonight. We've introduced a few themes and techniques that contribute to the complexity of validation method. We've talked about the importance of centering. We talked about the importance of centering, and whenever you encounter a loved one with cognitive impairment, they have a very unique sense of intuitive wisdom. They have great sensitivity to our mood, our body language, our voice tone, and our overall behavior. Centering is the key to maintaining our own focus and energy, especially when you don't know what to say. And that also takes practice. It's also very challenging to practice exquisite observation and active listening, as we went through tonight, and you had an opportunity to practice that with the videos, because they really know if you're paying attention, or if that phone call or that video call or that visit is an obligation that you're just checking in. They really do know the difference. It's so important to understand that there, like Vicki said many times tonight, that there is a reason behind the behavior. Those challenging, difficult, angry, bizarre behaviors are really means of communication. And sometimes that's the only way of communicating that they have with us. And validation tools help us to explore those underlying basic human needs that are being expressed, that we saw in the videos tonight. Also, all persons need to feel like we're in control. We all do. We all like to feel that we are in control of some sort of our life. I remember a few years ago, there was a client who once said to me, "I'm not the boss of me anymore." That was such a profound statement to me. I'm not the boss of me anymore. To me, she felt like she had been stripped of her personhood, stripped of her identity, and her dignity, certainly. and that it was almost like she was a non-person. No one was listening to her. I'm not the boss of me anymore. Give choices whenever you can, as in any kind of situation. It makes someone feel like they have some kind of control. And I'll ask Vicki now if she'll just kind of wrap up all the different techniques and kind of summarize all the things that we learned tonight and that we've gone over through the videos and we've seen in the videos.
Number one, center, center, and again, center. Observe and calibrate. Those are the three most important that we covered today. We did identify reminiscing, asking open questions, and rephrasing as verbal validation techniques. But even apart from that, I would say more important than the techniques are the pieces of theory we covered today, which I would encourage you to think about and integrate if you can. And that is, there is a reason behind the behavior. It's not for nothing. Almost nobody behaves without a reason. You, me, everybody here. We do things for a reason. And usually that reason is connected in some way with basic human needs. And if you live that, it totally shifts the way you respond to older adults who have cognitive decline. Don't argue, have empathy. These are just things that I've written down as we've gone through. Yeah, that's a lot, actually.
It is.
Have empathy.
Okay. All right, now we want to open it up to everyone for your questions. Hopefully we have answers.
I've been taking notes on the questions that came
good.
earlier in the evening.
Okay, so maybe we address those first.
Okay, and I will keep noting what's in the chat. The first question was, how do we get the recording? I don't know the answer to that.
Would you address that one?
Yes, it's going to be recorded. It's going to be on Melabev's Facebook page on Facebook. We are going to put it also on our YouTube channel and hopefully in a week or two to upload a page onto our internet site with some materials about the validation together with the videos as well. So we will send you an email about it when it all will be ready.
Thank you.
The next, thanks, Yossi. The next question was about using validation with younger people who are younger than, say, 80. And I think we've already addressed that. If we have not, please write in the chat and I'll come back to it. Can validation be used with people who have early onset Alzheimer? Do you want to take that?
As Vicki explained before, without question, there are elements of validation that definitely would be effective, as it is with any kind of relationship, good communication, observing, getting to empathy, being with that person. Validation was developed for late onset. So a lot of the goals and results that we are hope to receive and to get as caregivers, as staff, as family members may not be as effective. They may be shorter term in terms of their results. But without question, there are elements that definitely can be used. Everything that you read about validation in terms of what we expect in results may not be as effective with early onset, but definitely some of the techniques are great to use. I hope that answers it. And if not, please let us know.
Another couple of people talked about that's really nice in the conversation, but you can't do it 24/7.
Right.
Yes, that's correct. You cannot do validation 24/7. You can do validation for moments, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and maybe a couple of times in a day, but you cannot validate 24/7. It just takes too much energy and concentration. Someone asks, how do you respond if the anger is directed at you? Do you want to take this one, Nancy?
Okay. We've experienced that in the room without question with raised fists, and then again, it's about taking a deep breath, encountering that. Anger is, wow, you are really upset about something. What happened? What did I do? What has made you, you could ask those kinds of questions, and you do it in the same, not in a mimicking way, but in the same type of voice tone, and not to be afraid of that encounter, but to actually move into that encounter and just say, something happened, please tell me, what did I do wrong? What can I do to do different? How can I change it? Let them give you answers. And then maybe just by asking those open questions, not peppering them one after the other, but asking those open questions, you may get a little bit deeper about what is really behind that anger. Anything you want to add to that, Vicki?
No.
But treat that question as you would if that person was angry about something else. What happened? What did I do? What do you suggest?
Or not necessarily, it may not be, you may be the symbol for someone else. Right. And recognize that I might be really mad at somebody from my past, but Nancy is right in front of me, so I'm gonna give it to her, and she represents that person from the past. Is that clear? So understand
you might get that response if you say, what did I do? Well, yesterday you did, and that's way from the past. So then that's right. A clue of where to go.
Right.
Where to go for the next step. Always look for clues in what they say, rather than don't try to think of what you might say in return, thinking ahead. You literally work from what they say, how their body language, everything about them.
Yeah. Yeah. People are writing about delusions, psychotic delusions. That's too difficult, actually, a question to respond to, because if somebody is truly psychotic and having hallucinations, that you do not use validation. Right. If somebody is very old and they see their mother and they see her clear as a bell, that's not a hallucination. That is not a delusion. That is not psychotic behavior. That's a woman using her eidetic image to restore someone who she needs. And that's very different. So I can't really answer the question without really getting into a lot more detail.
I'd like to use the example too of if you try to imagine a mother, a situation, a vacation, and you can close your eyes and you can imagine that. Is that hallucinating? Right. Is that being delusional when you feel or imagine yourself being in that position? Of course not. But someone with cognitive impairment can recall all of those images so vividly, they don't have to close their eyes. It's just like Vicki said, it's right there. It's right there. And that's where you get those kinds of comments many times.
Here's a great question. Someone mentioned earlier about their mother who had lived in the same house 45 years and wants to go home. Can you give one tip on how you would handle that? Nancy, what do you say we role play it?
Okay.
I'll be the old lady who wants to go home.
Okay.
And is that okay?
Sure.
We did not plan this, okay? I'm springing it. Okay. I have to go home now.
You have to go home right now?
Yeah. Yes, now.
Okay.
Right now. I don't know who's in there, but I got to get there.
So you're worried about someone's in your home?
Well, I don't even know the last time I was there.
Is someone waiting for you?
No. No, I'm alone.
What do you miss the most about home?
Oh, it's a beautiful loft apartment, and you know those don't grow on trees.
Oh.
And it's in a great neighborhood. And I had these big windows. And I could see all of 18th Street. And you know, I was just around the corner from the old Barneys before they moved.
Oh.
It was a great apartment.
What's your favorite memory of being there?
Just the feeling that it's all mine. It's just mine.
And you feel like you don't have that anymore without that home?
No.
It's not there. And you miss it.
Yeah.
Okay. Did that help? Anyway, what are they missing? What's their favorite memory? What other questions could I have asked?
Wow, thank you is the response.
Good. Hope that helps.
Again, there's no recipe to validation. And if we did that role play in a half hour, it would be totally different. Because I'm totally different, Nancy's totally different. We change moment to moment. But you've gotten some spices, so you can start cooking.
That's true. That's true. I want to share my screen one last time. All right. Want to thank, oops, sorry.
Go back, go back.
There we go. I want to thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Melabev. Thank you, Yossi, for providing this opportunity to be with everyone tonight. I wanted to show you this page as a list of resources for you that some of them we talked about tonight. Yossi can be contacted at yossi@melabev.org, and please visit the Melabev website for all sorts of services that Melabev offers. If you want to correspond with me directly, please do so at validationisrael@gmail.com, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. The Validation Training Institute, I think there were some questions about that, and Vicki shared the website. You can visit their website, an excellent resource for all sorts of tips and just information about validation. And if you have any questions or very specific and need more specific information, please email the Validation Training Institute. And be sure to check out the Validation Institute's YouTube channel as well. You can just search, go into YouTube and search Validation Training Institute. And they're in the process as well as translating many of the how-to videos and the COVID videos that Vicki has prepared during this pandemic into Hebrew. So hopefully that will also be very helpful. Training and validation is always offered through the Validation Institute. We have family caregiver courses, basic validation courses, and certification courses are offered both in Hebrew and English through ESHO, which is the authorized validation organization here in Israel. So thank you again. It's been wonderful being with you. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your evening and inviting us into your home. We look forward to seeing you in another 2 weeks. We do have part 2 of validation for many things that we did not cover tonight. We will hopefully share next week.
It's not next week. Yeah, it's 2 weeks.
Sorry,
December 2nd.
December 2nd, 2 weeks from today.
Right. And I will send everybody WhatsApps and email a few hours before. And Nancy, the moment you're finished, so please tell me. And I want to invite Ze'ev, the CEO of Melabev, to say a few words as well.
Vicki, I think we're done.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nancy and Vicki.
Thank you, Vicki. First of all, I want to welcome all of you. Good evening. Thank you, Nancy and Vicki and Yossi. You are wonderful, and you did a marvelous job, and I'm sure next time it will be even much, attractive, and really thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to share with you that the exclusiveness of Melabev. What is special in Melabev is the multicultural approach, our policy. We have a center in Talpiot for English speakers. We have in Maswa, the daycare center in Jerusalem. We have a group for French speakers. We have from former Soviet Union, people that they have a special group, and the Israelis, the Hebrew speakers. So our idea is, and our mission now is to develop what we call Melabev, the Melabev community, and to approach, to engage Melabev all over. And I think our role is tikkun olam, what we say, tikkun olam, to repair the world and to make the world much better. We started 2 months ago with Tamar Semel. She's here. We had 2 sessions with her, with Hebrew speakers, you know. We had 180 participants. And today we have more than 90 participants. So I think it's so important that the COVID-19 brought to us the Zoom. And by the Zoom, the technology, we can bring everybody, you know, from South Africa, from UK, from United States, and from French, and from Israel. So I think it's so important. It's really a small world. And I think tonight we created a sort of community validation, community, Melabev. And I think it's so important that it's in the beginning of the month of Kislev. The month of Kislev that we have very close to Hanukkah, that so important that we're looking for, you know, for light, for happiness. And this is what characterized the Kislev months. So it will be more patient, more belief, containing, listening, empathetic, and more creative, be creative. And I think it's really a partnership and a solidarity. And thank you, and looking forward to see you next meeting. So again, Nancy, thank you, and Vicki and Yossi. Good evening.
Thank you, Nancy and Vicki. Very enlightening.
Hi, I'm and Judy. Hi, nice to see you.
Looking forward to the next one.
I'm going to stop sharing now. There we go. Wonderful. Great. So, Vicki.
Thanks, Nancy.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very
Bye,
much.
Vicki. Thank you so much.
See you in 2 weeks.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Be sure to contact us if you have any questions. Contact Yossi for any comments, any feedback for tonight, and contact me directly for any validation questions. It was a pleasure to be with you tonight.
Bye, Nancy.
Bye. Bye tomorrow.